How We Got Here. How We Got Here starts now, and today we talk fashion. More specifically, we talk fast fashion. There was a story in the news not so long ago, and like I mentioned before, in the Xinjiang region of China, some of the legacy brands from around the world, like the Swoosh Company is one example.
Right.
Adi Blank, I think, is another company that was used as an example. Then you have your fast fashion companies like HN Blank, that's really under fire in China right now because of unfair wage practices and work practices in that particular region. Right. Cotton is the hot topic, right? Oh. So now in China, a lot of netizens are going online and they're saying to boycott these stores. I read some articles, though. It's not everyone. You know, some Chinese consumers were saying, that's a political thing. Sure. That's not for us to worry about. But It is definitely a hot topic, and it leads us to our topic for today, fast fashion. Oh. I did a deep dive yesterday.
Did you enjoy it?
It's fascinating. I really, really did enjoy it. Let's start with a couple of fill-in-the-blank questions, shall we?
Oh.
In 1980, the average American bought blank new articles of clothing.
Well, I was a boy at that age, so I was not purchasing my own clothing. But if memory serves, I was begging my parents to buy me probably 6 articles of clothing every school season.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Oh, this is hard. Like 10?
In 1980, the average American bought 12 new articles of clothing. Pretty reasonable, right?
Yeah.
1 per month, essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
Fill in the blank again. In 2019, the average American bought blank new articles of clothing a year.
What is 8 million?
68.
That's just
So that's about what, 6-7 articles of clothing a year, right? That's a massive increase. The average American woman buys 64 articles of clothing a year, half of which are worn 3 times or less. And that's exactly what fast fashion is. So fashion is these fashion companies, and there are a bunch of them, that see what's happening with fashion trends. They produce the clothing super quickly.
Yep.
And then consumers go and buy it because that's the thing that's trending right now. And one really, really easy example of this is from a Cardi B song that you may recognize. It's called I Like It. It was a huge hit for her.
Yeah.
Listen to these lyrics.
I like diamonds, I like stunning, I like shining, I like $1 million deals. Where's my pen? Bitch, I'm signing. I like those Balenciagas, the ones that look like socks. I like going to the Tula. I put rocks all in my.
Okay, so did you catch the lyric there? Maybe not.
I'm sorry. I'm just ordering some clothes right now. Hold on a second. And bye.
Cardi B says those Balenciagas, the one that looks like socks.
Yes.
Okay, so now those shoes that she's wearing in the music video, and then the company that she mentioned. Those shoes that look like socks with sneaker bottoms on them.
Right, just kind of merge the two. And you get the product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that company's, the B company shoes, those are about $800 a pair. Oof. But Zara Blank, one of the biggest fast fashion companies in the world, started selling them for $60.
Oh.
And that's what fast fashion is. So what they'll do is they will find out what's trending, what's hot, what's popular, and then they'll produce it very quickly so that people can walk around and start looking like Cardi B, but at a much more reasonable price.
I see.
I remember like way back in the day, I mean, a decade or two ago,
Yeah.
where you would see people at fashion shows on the catwalk and you're like, what on earth are they wearing? There's no way you're going to wear that. And maybe about 5 years later, it got down to the rest of us, right? In a muted fashion, right?
Yeah.
So it became more wearable.
Right.
But nowadays, you see something on the catwalk, and the next day, all these fast fashion stores have a version of it.
It doesn't even have to take that long anymore.
crazy. Oh
my gosh.
5 years? That's an eternity.
But now it's like a month, right?
Well, we're
nuts.
gonna talk about that. It can be even faster than that.
Oh, no.
So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the founder of one of the largest fast fashion companies in the world. It's a pretty interesting story. Zara blank. Everybody knows this company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the store I go into and they say, you're too old, get out.
Oh.
So Zara blank's parent company is called Inditex, and it's the largest retail clothing company in the world. Zara blank's founder, his name is Amancio Ortega. He's the 7th richest person in the world. He's worth $70 billion.
Wow.
Or at least he was in a couple of years ago. So it's quite an interesting story. So Amancio Ortega, he opened his first clothing store in 1975.
Okay.
It was called Zorba.
Zorba. Zorba.
Zorba. But it's interesting. There was a bar in the same town called Zorba. So the bar owner got upset and told Ortega, you have to change your name. So what Ortega did was he rearranged the letters of Zorba to spell Zara, and that's how the name came to be.
And who's laughing now?
So Mr. Ortega, he pioneered what we now know as the fast fashion industry. So let's talk about the difference between fast fashion and legacy brands.
Okay.
So legacy brands are brands like GAP, that one.
Okay.
Tommy Hill blank.
Yeah.
Ralph Lauer blank.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think I have a Ralph Lauer blank in my closet right now.
So if it says Ralph Lauer blank, I hope you paid $3 for it.
I did.
So how legacy brands work is that they will release massive amounts of clothing in a few seasonal releases. So they'll have their spring collection, their summer collection, their fall line, their winter line. And for one of those collections, it takes about 2 years to get everything ready, from the design of the from the design of the clothes to the buying and the treatment of the fabrics to the manufacturing to the distribution.
Okay.
All of that for one line takes about 2 years. And that's kind of how these legacy brands have been operating for a long time, right?
Okay.
But Amancio Ortega and Zara Blank, they had another idea in mind.
In the 80s, Zara completely changed the fashion game by combining two techniques. The first is quick response manufacturing, which basically says, forget big, expensive releases. Let's knock off a design quick, keep raw materials on hand, only make more if it's popular, and streamline distribution. So when new trends break, these companies catch the wave with lightning speed.
Kim Kardashian recently took to social media to slam fast fashion brands 2 days after she wore an eye-catching Terry Mugler design, which had been ripped off by Fashion Nova. Within 24 hours of Kim being seen in the outfit, Fashion Nova launched a very similar dress just for $50.
$50 in 24 hours.
That's insane.
The fast fashion company had it on the rack. So, John, you said 5 years. Not 5 years at all.
No, I was thinking that's probably what it was before, but it's like nowhere near that now.
As fast as 24 hours.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy,
That's
right?
just wait, so they have this infrastructure set up,
Yeah.
just waiting.
Exactly. So they keep their materials on hand, right? So that they don't have to go out and buy the fabrics. And the designs, I mean, they're not necessarily coming up with original designs all the time, right? So they could just knock it off as quickly as possible.
Right.
Now, you might be thinking, well, is that legal or is it not legal? You know, how can Kim Kardashian show up from a designer's vintage dress,
right,
and then a fast fashion company can knock it off in 24 hours? Is that legal or is it not?
Well, they're probably tweaking something.
Well, let's find out.
Knockoffs mostly are not counterfeits. People tend to conflate them, but they're not the same.
This is a counterfeit. It copies the symbols of the brand that made the original.
So counterfeits are typically illegal,
Knockoffs, on the other hand, just resemble the design of the original. And that's usually fine.
So there's the difference. If you put the name or the symbol on it,
Right.
then it's considered a counterfeit. But if you just copy the design, it's not considered a counterfeit. It's considered a knockoff, and that's pretty much legal.
Right, because technically nobody has like patented A-line skirts like in itself. So as long as if you're just producing more A-line skirts and it looks similar to the brand designed one, it's like, well, legally there's nothing that they could really do.
Not only similar, oftentimes it looks
Exactly the
it looks
same.
exactly the same. For example, when I came in today, those Balenci blank blank shoes. Our producer Viola's wearing a pair of them.
Say what?
Of the fashion. I've said this is perfect that you're wearing these today because this is what we're talking about. She's
Yeah.
wearing the fast fashion ones.
Somebody take them off her feet and I'll post them up on a secondhand shop.
So it's legal. So how do they do it though? How do they do this so quickly? Fast fashion, they rely on real-time data. So they have to keep up with supply and demand, right? So they
Right.
have to heavily monitor social media. And the feedback on social media to see what people are loving and to see what people are talking about.
Yeah.
So if it's trending, they can put it out as quickly as possible. And that's the second part of this business model for fast fashion. It's called dynamic assortment. And dynamic assortment basically means you're putting out new stuff all the time, right? H&Blank, for example, another big fast fashion brand. They have new clothes, at least in one particular spots, delivered to their stores every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
That is so nuts.
New clothes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So instead of the legacy brands, spring, summer, fall, winter, fast fashion basically has 52 seasons a year.
Oh my
It's like
gosh.
52 weeks, right? Because they're doing new clothes every single week.
Wow.
And that is how we got to where we are. That's how we got here. And as a result of all of this, the world, you might think we have a clothing shortage, right? It's the exact opposite. In 2018, the Zara blank parent company made 1.6 billion pieces of clothing for their 7,500 stores. 7,500 stores? Since 2005, they've been opening a store at a rate of one per day.
Where?
One per day since
That's-
2005.
That's bonkers, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not even talking about the effect on the planet that fast fashion has, right?
Oh my.
In 2015, textile production created more greenhouse gas emissions than international flights and shipping combined.
Combined.
The toxic chemicals they use in the dyeing of the clothes, they're polluting waters. And affecting the health of people who live in those areas and rely on those waters, on those rivers, things
Yeah.
like that. It's crazy, right? But as I was watching this and as I was learning about fast fashion, it kind of sounds like we're vilifying them, right? Zara blank and H and blank.
Right.
It makes it sound like they're the bad guys. But yet they wouldn't be doing this if the demand for the clothes was not there.
Yeah, this is a whole nother. We can go way in depth about this. Who's responsible? But yeah, it takes both sides.
Right? It takes two to tango, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's the same, you could talk about the same argument with the paparazzi. Well, do you blame the paparazzi for taking the photos or do you blame consumers for buying those magazines?
Right.
Because if they didn't buy the magazines, the photos wouldn't exist at all. So it's really an interesting topic to dive into. Okay, so in the beginning, we're almost finished, but in the beginning, I said the average American now buys 68 articles of clothing per year, right?
Yep.
Fill in this blank. The average American throws away blank kilograms of clothes every year.
Every year.
Yeah. Blank kilograms of clothes thrown away.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm an American, converting pounds to kilograms.
The answer is 36.5 kilograms, or about 80 pounds of clothing every year thrown away. Now, there's
That is so much.
There's 330 million Americans. Do that math.
So much.
These are just going into like landfills and.
Well, yeah, because if you're thinking, oh, that's okay, I'm not part of the problem because I donate my clothes. Well, there's one Salvation Army store in New York City that gets 18 tons of clothes every 3 days.
Every 3 days.
18 tons every 3 days. And 80%, this is the final crazy statistic, 87% of the fabric used in clothing, in all of this clothing production, 87% of the fabric ends up in the garbage in a landfill or burned, incinerated.
And
It's awful for the planet.
Yeah, a lot of fast fashion materials are made out of polyester. So you got plastics everywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was one little shocking thing in this that said it was, I won't mention the company, but the tag on the T-shirt, right? The tag on the T-shirt said, made with recycled materials.
Right.
Because these fast fashion companies, they know. Consumers know about this now. And
Okay.
consumers are conscious.
Right.
So the tag said made with recycled materials. You know what that means? The tag was made with recycled materials.
Yeah, of course.
No.
Not the shirt itself.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think that's like an old production trick. People have been doing that for decades.
Yeah.
It's really, I was reading something recently about people kind of going against fast fashion now, right?
Yeah.
They're trying.
And so we can talk about that later. You know, people are actually just saying, I'm just going to buy a couple of decent shirts and wear them for years.
Right, right.
People are trying to be more conscious
Yeah.
for sure. So there you go. That's our talk on fast fashion.